Good evening, he says in his best Australian accent. Are there any Antipodeans in the audience? That's good, as for the next 6 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about the endearing love-hate relationship between our two great nations and my personal experience of it. Back in 2003, I was fortunate to work in Canberra on an assignment for the Territory Government. I say fortunate as Australia's national capital has got an unfortunate reputation for being dull. In his book Down Under, Bill Bryson, the travel writer, recalls watching through the city's promotional tourist video, Canberra, it's got it all, and renames it Canberra, why wait for death? The 350,000 Canberrans think differently, of course. They find the home of the National Parliament, the National Gallery and the National Museum a charming place, free from the complications of big city life. My team's task was to review the operations of the company contracted to manage the supply and disposal of water to the city. Whilst the consultancy I was working for had an international reputation in undertaking such independent assessments, it of course went down like a lead balloon with the water company employees that a bunch of palms would perform the task. As the team leader, I undertook an initial tour to determine where to target our activities. On my second day, I was coming back from inspecting a reservoir in the mountains above Canberra in a car with 3 engineers from the water company. The landscape was as you imagine it, bush. As we were driving along, we came across a bunch of kangaroos. Now, I'm not sure of what the collective noun for a group of kangaroos is. Herd, flock, a flock of kangaroos. I jest. Believe it or not, it's a mob or a troop. If you ever get that question in a pub quiz, you owe me a pint. Anyway, the Australians started taking the mickey out of me, asking if I wanted to take a photograph. What happened next, I'll come to in a while. So what is it between the English and the Australians? A few years ago, a friend of mine was thinking of emigrating. He was a civil engineer like me, and there was a shortage of skills in Australia. Things were going well at his initial interview at the embassy. The consul official was a pretty young, intelligent Australian, and my mate began to enjoy himself. Academic background, relevant experience, good health, no problems. It wasn't the best answer to say I didn't know it was still a prerequisite to get in when she asked him if he had a criminal record. So there I was in this car with 3 mad Aussies looking to take the mickey out of one poor Pom, and this mob of about 30 kangaroos about 50 yards or so away. Now, I only had a basic tourist camera, primarily to take work-related shots. None of this £500 state-of-the-art SLR thingy-majig with shutter speeds of 2000 for the second, 25 to 800mm zoom lens with ultrasonic definition. I knew the only photo I would get was some grass and trees and some brown spots claiming to be Skippy, the bush kangaroo. So what if they were the native species of our former colony? I'd also spent some time working in South Africa, close to the Kruger National Park. The first time you go into the Kruger and see zebra, you nearly wet yourself with excitement. But zebra are in there swinging in the trees with the monkeys, swimming in the pools with the hippo, and even letting Tarzan give them riding lessons. You begin to realise just how many zebra there are, and you begin to wish that lion only ate zebra meat. So, I digress. As I say, I was in the car with these Australians, and they desperately were insistent on me taking a photograph. The car driver crept the car forward slowly. They were all saying, "You must take a photo, you must take a photo." I tried to take a photo through the window, but that wasn't good enough for them. They said, "You must get out, you must get out." I was frightened it was a cunning plan to get me out of the car, and they would drive off, leaving me stranded as an act of vengeance for what Ian Botham did to them in the cricket in 1981, and what Johnny Wilkinson was about to do to them later that year in the rugby. So, as slowly as I could, I opened the door and eased myself out, camera in hand. Unfortunately, the door shut behind me, and the slight click spooked the ruse, and they were bounding off into the great beyond before I could even say Rolf Harris. So what do you know, ladies and gentlemen? Within 24 hours, about 90% of Canberra had heard the tale of this sad Pom who had desperately pleaded to take a photograph of some old ruse and had scared them off getting out of the car. Thank you for listening.